I think I could be a pretty good used car salesman.
I agree. I think you would sell Miatas.
Yeah. I would wear an eye patch to distract people.
Oh, from like how shitty the car is. They just keep staring at your eye.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And like when they're not looking, you just swap the eye patch eye. Like you just move the eye patch over.
That would that would really freak people out. Like in Young Frankenstein. Wasn't your hump on the other side? What hump? Dum, 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 dum. Yeah. No, I think that would be a good like psychological tactic for getting into people's minds and making them buy shitty cars.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob McLaugh. How you doing today, Jacob?
I am swell, Charles. I'm excited for another episode of the podcast. You've got a new pitch. Last Ticket to Ride, I believe was the title.
I got a ticket to ride.
I think you've already found your intro song.
Ticket to ride. Yeah. No, I wouldn't pick that for the intro song, but the show is The Last Ticket to Ride, or Last Ticket to Ride, but I really had a hard time cracking this nut of a show, and so one of the things I did to try and get inspiration was listen to the Beatles' Ticket to Ride. It didn't help at all. It was thoroughly unhelpful. It's a good song, but it thoroughly did not help me inspire any sort of creativity, but that's fine because I came up with a show anyway. I thought of it this morning when I was leaving my neighbor's apartment because she invited me over for coffee. That's right. I have a neighbor. What are you gonna do about it?
He's got friends.
Nothing.
They exist.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
And by his neighbor and coffee, he's talking about, because we're still trapped in this spaceship, and I'm about maybe a foot and a half away from you. And you just sort of scooted over here, and I poured you a cup, and we drank it, and then you scooted back.
But that's besides the point. I have a show. Last Ticket to Ride. It's gonna be crazy. It's about two men, and they drive across America, and they get into all sorts of adventures. Isn't that wild?
It is, yes, of course. I thought you were going to keep going.
I couldn't hear you.
You stopped for it. I thought you were going to say more, and then you just suddenly stopped. I'm like, okay.
I couldn't hear you, and there was, like, no sound, so I was like, oh, fuck, do I have to re-record the intro? That was a perfect intro I did. But, no, never. I'll never do it again. It's about two men, and they drive across America. It's a road trip. It's set in, like, have you ever seen the old, the first Star Trek reboot movie that came out in 2009, I think, with Chris Pine and
oh yeah, I think I saw part of it. I didn't watch the whole thing.
Carl Urban. It's set in a kind of world like that, but on Earth. So like humanity has expanded past our atmospheric bounds, and we've traversed the stars. But in doing so, we've kind of let Earth just decay into this sort of like decrepit, dystopian almost version of itself, right? Like kind of like Elysium, if you've seen that, the Neil Blomkamp movie. So kind of think Mad Max, but there is still like governments, like there's still, society. It's just all kind of falling apart. Like when you drive, if you're ever in the States and you're driving through those old, tiny towns in the Midwest, right? That have kind of like been forgotten by time, because there's a highway now and so people don't drive through them anymore. That's basically what the entire country is like. And so that's kind of the universe we're setting up. And our main characters are Franklin Hogg. His nickname is Slime, just because I like that. I think that's funny. Franklin Hogg is a last gasp wild child approaching middle age who finds himself trying to relive his best moments. A loud and belligerent drunk with a penchant for starting and ending fights, he is a man who has made many mistakes in his life and is trying to make up for a few of them, right? So kind of when I was coming up with this guy, I was thinking like sort of a biker look, kind of long hair, gray strands going through it. He's got that biker mustache, right? He's got a bandana on over his head so you can't really see his receding hairline, but he's getting up there. Think I don't know. Think Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but only in the time that he was a cowboy.
Oh,
you remember that scene?
Yeah. Liked him as a cowboy.
Where he's got the mustache and the hair and the gun and all that stuff. That's kind of the look I'm going for with this dude, you know? And our second main character is Edwin Meredith Smith, a young man with a love for books, reading, the arts, and music, who could charitably be referred to as a panty waist. He has never left his small town, but has big dreams and a longing to see the universe. And so we kind of get this odd couple, almost, because Edwin's a very young man, he's inexperienced, he's naive, and he's kind of a pussy, whereas Franklin is an older man, he's very experienced and knowledgeable about, like, the seedier side of life, and he's, always ready for a scrap, but he's not the brightest bulb in the bunch, if you know what I mean. He's not a genius, right? And I will tell you, I will break down the first episode, and then after that, I just have a bunch of ideas for what adventures they'll get into on their cross-country road trip. So if you have any ideas, feel free to tell them to me and to the listeners. Actually, don't tell the listeners. Just tell me.
Okay.
Send me a text.
Yeah.
And I'll take credit for the ideas, and that way I'll look even better. So thank you, Jake, preemptively.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So, Franklin Hogg rolls into town on the back of a cobbled-together motorcycle. He silently walks across this ghost town, staring people down and generally being kind of an intimidating ass, right? He's wandering through this, very, very somber town, right? You kind of get, like, people see him come through and they're not used to seeing strangers, so they close the windows, sort of like a Western style, but there's still, like, cell phones and computers and stuff. And he just sort of wanders through town very intensely looking for something, obviously. Right? Cut to, Edwin is sitting in the local diner, eating, drinking, and laughing with his friends. They're talking about the next sheriff's election and what they're going to do now that they've graduated high school and they're adults. Some of them are talking about, well, I'll go work with my dad in the local mine or blobbity-bloobity. And Edwin is really, he's super excited about maybe trying to apply for a space visa so he can, like, see Mars or maybe even Jupiter, right? Like, he wants to go out and see the universe and maybe get his college degree, be a college boy, and his buddies, who are also, Edwin's a pussy and his friends are also pussies, and his friends are kind of ribbing him for it. Oh, college boy, but it's all in good fun, right? And Edwin he's laughing and he's jovial, and as, this kind of happy scene continues, Hogg walks into the diner, and the whole place falls silent. Everyone's staring at him. And Hogg loudly announces, I'm looking for Edwin Meredith Smith.
Meredith.
And Edwin looks up. That's his name. That's his middle name. Edwin looks up, and he notices that almost immediately, all of his friends have left the booth that he's sitting in, and he is now sitting alone, staring at this guy as everyone kind of just gestures towards Edwin, and Hogg walks over. And you can hear the clinking of his boots. He's got those, like, classic biker boots on. He sits down, plops down, I should say, in front of Edwin at the booth, takes a pot of coffee, pours himself a cup, takes a sip, and slaps down 2 first-class Starliner tickets to see the new worlds, right? Oh. And Edwin's like, what? Taken aback, right? Because there's this beautiful, incredible Starliner that will be taking a whole, like, group of colonizers to see this new world that has just recently been discovered. And it's got, like, the perfect conditions for life. It's effectively a paradise, it's a Garden of Eden, right? And only the most richest, powerful, influential people are really going to be riding on this ticket on this ship. And so Edwin had no interest in it because he was like, why would I get my hopes up, right? Hogg slaps down 2 tickets, and he looks up at Edwin and he explains, I was a friend of your father's back in the war. you know? He saved my life more times than I can count. And I'm trying to do right by him. Do right by him. It's literally the last and only good deed that I can do. But I got these 2 tickets, and I'm happy to give one to you, but only if we go together and travel across the country to get to the liner, right? We're not going separately. I'm not giving you a ticket and then leaving, because you could just sell it or give it to someone else or whatever, right? We're going together, we'll get on the ship, and we'll go see the new world, right? And Edwin is kind of taken aback, because this scary dude is just offered him basically the opportunity of a lifetime, but he's kind of like, is this guy for real? Like, is he gonna, like, kill me, you know?
Yeah.
But after thinking it over for a little bit, and he's like, I'm a man. I'm an adult man. I can make my own decisions. I'm gonna take him up on this offer. I'm gonna do it, right? And he shakes Hog's hand, and Hog kind of has this wry smile, you know, and the twinkle of one of his gold teeth, right? As they shake hands and agree on it, and Edwin feels a little bit like he's made a deal with the devil, but it'll be worth it, you know? He's gonna see the new worlds, and that's so exciting. So Edwin goes home, and he sees his mother, and he explains to her what happened, and this guy was a friend of Dad's, right? My dad was a war hero, and he died, you know, and this guy said he saved his life, so, you know, I have to take this opportunity. I can't allow it to just go through my fingertips. I have to grab it. And she's like kind of hurt and a little emotional, right? And she looks out and she sees Hog on the back of his hog, right? And she kind of looks at him, and there's a little bit of a knowing glance in her eye, but then she shakes it off and she looks at him, and she gives him a hug and packs him his favorite lunch and says, well, I guess this is goodbye, my sweet Edwin. I'll see you in this life or the next, and I love you, son. Do great things, right? And there's this very emotional goodbye as Edwin says goodbye to his mother and gets in his pickup truck. Edwin has this very old beat up pickup truck. Hog puts his motorcycle into the back of the pickup, and they begin their journey, right? And they start driving. They're driving for hours, and it's just dead silence, right? As they are, you know, just looking at the maps, and it's like, oh, every you know, hour or so, Edwin will like say, oh, you gotta turn left here, right? Something like that. But it's very awkward, because these two just met, and they don't know the fuck anything about each other. But Hog decides to put on some music, right? Kind of break everything up, and they bond a little bit over their shared love of old jazz records, right? They both really love jazz, you know? Edwin talks about like, my dad left all these old records for me, and I loved them. I love Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk and all these people. They're great. And Hog basically says the same thing, right? Like, your dad turned me on to jazz in the war, and we're never gonna talk about what the war is. It's not the Clone Wars, you know? It's just the war. But your dad turned me onto the jazz and the war, and my life's never been the same since. It's really opened my mind to so much, you know, music and art and beauty in the world, right? And so they kind of bond over this, and finally, sun begins to descend, and Hog's like, you know what? I'm gonna wet my whistle. And so they pull into this dive bar, right? Hog gets out, and he goes up, and he sidles up to the bar and starts drinking. He's throwing back whiskey and beer and all this stuff. Edwin's sipping on his Shirley Temple because he's a fucking pussy, right? And Hog gets pretty drunk. By you know, hour 3 of being in this bar, he's pretty intoxicated, right? And he starts talking shit and being a little bit of an asshole, right? And eventually he picks a fight with the wrong guy and gets his ass tossed onto the curb, right? And Edwin walks out of the bar, sober as the day he was born, is kind of like, oh, fuck, what have I gotten myself into? Well, I can't just leave him here, right? And so he kind of is able to pull Hog up and put him in the back of the car into the bed of the truck. And they both end up falling asleep in the bed of this truck, staring up at the stars as Edwin, like, is talking to himself just like, this is going to be worth it. I'm going to see the universe, right? All of this laid out in front of me. It's going to be the best, right? End of episode 1. So that's how the show starts, is with our two main characters driving across America, doing all sorts of fun adventures and having an exciting time where they bond and they talk and they grow to really care about one another. Some of the ideas I have, feel free to stop me if you have any, is they get arrested in this tiny town and are forced into a prison fight club situation by the corrupt sheriff. And they're like a tag team, of fighting. But Edwin just kind of is useless, except for when he's accidentally very useful, like kind of a Three Stooges situation. Like he gets hit in the face, his glasses fall on the ground. He, leans over to get his glasses, and Hog is able to push someone over, off of him, right? That sort of thing, right? And they're fighting their way up through this prison fight club situation, and it's getting pretty dicey. Like Hog almost loses a few of the fights, and he's pretty beat up by the end of it. And they finally get to the big bad guy, the huge, prison monster man who's been absolutely beating the shit out of people, like this massive gladiator dude. And as soon as they get into the ring with him, Hog is just he can barely stand. He's so fucked up. And Edwin looks up and he sees this massive dude, this effectively like a gladiator, a Goliath, And he looks at him. He's like, Todd? And the guy looks at Edwin, and turns out Edwin had helped tutor Todd back when they were in high school together. And the only reason that Todd was able to graduate was because Edwin was so helpful. And so he's like, I can't beat you up, right? And he helps them escape, and that's how they get out of prison. That's how they get out of that scrape,
Mm-hmm.
Another idea I had is they're driving through I have a dune glider territory, and so dune gliders would be these kind of mutated vulture creatures that are the size of a car, right?
Yeah.
And they're driving through that territory, and they're seeing all these crazy animals and mutated beasts. They get out of the car to, stretch their legs, and Hog has to take a piss, right, and all this stuff. And as they're get out of the car, one of the dune gliders that's huge just picks it up off the ground and flies away. And so now these two dipshits are just stuck in the middle of the fucking desert with no food, no water, and no transportation. Right?
It'd be great if in the episode right before this they had lost their car and they somehow got the night, they got this cool convertible, or they got a really cool muscle car, or they had some really cool car that is going to make their trip a lot faster, And they're really streaming through the desert now, and they stop for gas, and that's when it gets taken. And so they have to walk across the desert, and it's one of those episodes where it's just them two talking, and they're starting to lose it a little bit, the heat madness, right, of the desert, and then they're freezing in the middle of the night because, the desert's very cold at night. Until eventually they stumble upon this church, right, and they meet this very old preacher, right, and he's blind, and he's very kind and magnanimous, and he offers them food and all this stuff. And while Edwin is talking to him, Hog pickpockets his keys, and they steal the blind priest's car, and they just go. And Edwin's he's a little sad about it, because he's like, oh, we really stole that blind priest's car. And Hog says, what, do you want to go give it back to him and walk the rest of the way? Sometimes you gotta be a little bit of an asshole. Can't drive?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe he's deaf. I hadn't thought about the blind.
No, it'd be funny if he was blind, and they're and that's his logic as he's leaving. He couldn't even drive. He's blind. Also, I think the car should be the exact make and model of whatever car they had originally before they got the upgrade as well. So maybe they're going through the desert, and they're like, I think I see a Mirage. I think I see our old car, the old What car should it be? It should be a somewhat shitty car.
A Ford F-150 from 1983. It's the year 2255 or something.
It's an old Ford pickup truck, and they're like, I think I see the old Ford. Like it looks like it's right in front of us. It's just obviously it's the Mirage, and then they just literally run into it and they're like, wait a second, this is a real car.
Holy shit, this is a real car. Yeah, I like that. And then they get it and they steal it. They drive off right into the desert, and they're both kind of a little bummed that they had to do that, but also you got to do what you got to do. And the last episode idea I had before the finale, right, is Hog enters a drinking contest with an alien bartender who has 3 livers and 6 stomachs. And so midway through the drinking contest, he is absolutely plastered, like completely fucked up. And so Edwin, who's never touched a drop of alcohol, and Hog's bet something stupid, like the car or like one of the tickets or something like that. And Edwin, who's never touched a drop of alcohol in his life, has to kind of like put on a fake mustache and like a bandana and stuff and pretend to be Hog and drink. And he eventually wins the drinking contest as the alien bartender is just like, ugh.
Yeah.
He falls over. Edwin's like, yay! He's carried out on some drunk's shoulders. And as he gets out of the bar, he just starts vomiting everywhere. And his mustache falls off and his hair falls off and everyone sees that he's faking. But Hog has had enough time to sober up, and so he grabs Edwin, tosses him in the truck, and they just peel out of there.
Yeah,
as the entire bar comes chasing them with like guns and pitchforks and torches and shit.
Yeah. For the bartender, it would be funny if like the way his liver thing works is he has to like sort of manually switch it, so he gets like so it seems like he's gonna lose like pretty quickly into it, and then he just switches to his second liver, and it's like all of a sudden he's like, he goes from being super drunk and tipsy to just normal again. He's like, oh fuck, yeah. Like I am nowhere near beating this guy. He's about to destroy me. He's just getting onto his second liver.
Shit, he's got 3. Christ, exactly. And maybe he's got like he changes it like a gear, right? Yeah. Okay, we're fine. What's up? So do you have any ideas before I reveal? I give the finale, which has a big reveal to it.
Do you have any like so the world? Is it like I mean, it's vaguely dystopian, but is there like a government or?
I would say that there is a government. It's like it's a loose collection of city-states all across the U.S. There is no federal government anymore. Okay. It's just kind of, it's a country that has fallen apart. It's almost post-apocalyptic, except for the fact that there are still millionaires and billionaires and trillionaires, all of whom have like luxury houses and estates and TV shows and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like RoboCop almost. Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking you could possibly have like a constant threat behind them. Maybe somebody that like used to be in the military with what's Edwin? What's the other guy's name? I can't remember.
Hog. Franklin Hog.
So somebody like that used to be in the military with Hog, and like I don't know, either got screwed over by him or was like his former commanding officer and is like trying to get revenge because Hog's he actually. Oh.
That would work really well for the final reveal.
Oh, okay.
So I like your idea, but it's got to be, we got to save a little bit of the reasoning behind. But I do like the idea that they have this kind of like dangerous dude who's just chasing them, and he's always a few steps behind, right? And Hog knows he's coming, and he's kind of like looks over his shoulder every once in a while, and Edwin knows that there's something, but he's, he doesn't know him well enough to ask yet until eventually, like, he gets him drunk, right? And he's like, there's a bounty hunter. His name's, Francis Magoo. And he's going to come kill us. He's going to slit our throats and fucking scalp us.
And you could subtly do it eyeballs throughout, like, the first half of the season where, like, you'll only see him, like, at the end of episodes, like, at the town they were just in, like, picking through the stuff and looking through things, and then maybe in like the 3rd or 4th episode, like I don't know, maybe the people from the bar like question him, and that's where we first see his like deadliness, and he just like fucking lays out 6 people in the bar.
Lays out 6 people, sets the bar on fire, right? Takes like one of the video surveillance pictures of the car with him, so he knows what model they're driving.
Yeah.
You know? We could find, maybe we have a picture of him, like, or like a post-credit scene of him, like, killing the dune glider and, like, searching through the car that they had. So we show how fucking scary this guy is. They just killed a 20-foot-long vulture monster.
Oh, and also for the priest thing. Okay, we could make the priest, like, a former military buddy of Hog. And that will make, him stealing the car even more ridiculous. And like we'll have a scene, like maybe a post-credit scene where like somebody comes to the church and we don't really see who it is, and they ask for confession, and so the priest goes into the confessional booth with this guy, and this guy's telling the priest stuff. He's like, wait, like I know you're, and then we'll cut to the credits or something.
Bang.
Where like the priest will get shot or something. Yeah.
And then the guy walks out of a burning church, and it looks cool as fuck. And then he takes off his glasses and his hat, and it's revealed to be
Keanu Reeves.
Brad Pitt.
Oh.
Keanu Reeves, even better. But I like that a lot, of them having this constant threat. But the final episode, right, they finally arrive at the launch site, right, and they decide, Hog's like, let's have one more earthly drink, one more drink on this pathetic mud ball of a planet before we get out of here forever, right? And so they go to a bar and they have a drink, and Hog is surprisingly casual in his drinking. He's not really throwing them back as much as he usually does. He's maybe just sipping a whiskey, and Edwin finally, looks at him and he's like, what's wrong, man? Like, we've been traveling together for a while now. I can tell something's eating away at you. What's up? And Hog finally admits that he didn't know his father in the service. His father was never actually in the service.
Oh.
Hog's a coward. Hog is his father.
What?
Edwin is the only good thing that Hog ever did with his life, and the only way he knew to keep him safe and healthy and smart was to stay as far away from him as possible. But Hog got these tickets. He stole them from an old buddy of his who's been chasing them across the nation, and he decided to give them to his son. But he wanted to make sure that his son didn't turn out anything like him, and he was right. He didn't. And Edwin he's taken aback. He's heartbroken. He's angry. He grabs the tickets and he just leaves. And Hog doesn't chase him. He doesn't try and stop him. He's just kind of like, yeah, I deserve that, And Edwin's kind of like really hurt, and he goes to a different bar maybe or somewhere, and he drinks, and he's thinking, and he finally decides, like, this guy can't be all bad, right? If he did this for me, right, he's a piece of shit father, and he's not a good person, but he did this for me, and I can't let go of that, And so he goes up to the spaceship, right, gets in line, and he sends Hog a message, like, I'm in line, I have your ticket, come meet me, I'll give you your ticket, and then we'll get on the ship together. It's fine. And while Hog gets that message, that's when the bounty hunter comes in, and they, like, have this massive brawl that, like, sets fire to the bar, and, they're getting in all sorts of crazy fights because Hog stole his only ticket for the ship. And then Edwin inspects the tickets closely, and he realizes that only one of the tickets is real. Only one is valid. Hog was never going to get on that ship. He only wanted to get his son on that ship, and the only way he could convince him to travel with him is if he made it look selfish, right? And so Edwin gets on the ship, and he sits down in his seat, and he looks out, and he sees Hog, he sees his dad, right? He's bloodied, he's bruised, he's beaten, right? And he looks up at his son. Hog looks up at his son, and he just gives him a wave. And Edwin waves back. And then the ship takes off, and Edwin travels off into the universe to look upon greener pastures. As Hog gets back in his truck, and he drives off into the sunset. The end. Last ticket to ride.
Damn. I did not expect that reveal. That was surprising.
Yeah.
Last ticket to ride.
I was excited with the reveal because I didn't think I laid it on.
Nah,
thick,
I didn't
right?
see it at all.
It was subtle.
I didn't see it coming, but now I can make sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's why his mom was so okay with him traveling with this guy, because she was like, I know that's your dad,
his
right?
Dad. Oh.
But there's a reason that he's not telling you, and you're a man now. You can make your own decisions. You can make your own mistakes. Just know that you can always come back here, right? That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I wanted to do that sort of odd couple situation. I was gonna initially, my first idea was to have it be two best friends who've like grown apart over like the years, and then they've like come back, and then yeah, exactly. And then you get the kind of like super cool one, like, or not the cool one, but like kind of the wild child one, to get the more straight-laced one, and they're going to go see the last ever show from their favorite band that they loved when they were teenagers, and that was the initial idea. But it all sort of morphed together because I thought the father and son thing was a better reveal than just two mates, you know?
Yeah, I like that other idea too. I like this one. I like the journey across the country, not knowing that they're father and son.
Yeah. It's fun. I think it's a fun show. I think that it's got room to be silly and goofy, but it's also got room to be like emotionally resonant and meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the show. Do you want to pick a title?
Oh, I get to pick a title. I forgot. What's my 1 through whatever?
You get 5.
5. Okay. I
will tell you. Actually, I'm gonna say you have 3 because 2 of them aren't great.
Okay. 3. Let's go with numero uno.
A handful of bullets.
A handful of bullets. Okay. Next week, we won't see that because it's 2:30.
No.
And we'll be making up something off the top of our heads. But in 2 weeks, you'll hear a handful of bullets.
A handful of bullets. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, has been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat. Remember, we will be here next week with a brand new televisual series for you to imagine and enjoy. Thank you, and have a good night.